What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tattoo Critiques. This week we're going to be diving into client tattoos, and I love doing these tattoos because you really never know what you're going to get. So let's get into it. All right, this first tattoo sent in is from Will Walker, and Will, you sent in these tattoos of these rather weird looking babies. Obviously they're not proportionally right. I would be worried if my baby looked like this. I'm assuming they're supposed to be kind of like a Cupid-esque doll or a Cupid-esque baby, but this doesn't really hit the mark. These kind of just look like babies that got smashed in the womb. I don't know. The top two babies could maybe be Siamese twins standing on top of their brother. They've kind of got some bozo hair going on. I don't know, everything about this tattoo is just very weird. The baby's legs. The middle baby's leg kind of looks like a wet blanket. And that bottom baby's ass isn't happening. It's only ass. I don't know what's coming out of the middle baby's back. They kind of look like balls. I'm just really unsure of the design overall. And the space between the eyebrows and the eyes on that middle baby, I can't even get my eyebrows that high. We would most likely see these babies at a sideshow somewhere, doing flips off each other. And the choice of red color, I'm not sure about that. I'm sure it's just a stylistic choice, but I probably would have went with a brown or some kind of skin tone color. But overall, I don't know. These babies just make me feel weird. I mean, the lines aren't bad, but thanks for sending that in, Will. This was definitely a fun one. And the next tattoo sent in is from Corrie Widdowson. And Corrie, you sent in this Ozzy Osbourne eating a bat in a neo-traditional style. Right off the bat, I love this tattoo. It's got all the right elements that a good tattoo needs. Solid lines, good color saturation, and an overall appealing aesthetic. Even without the bat, you can clearly tell that's Ozzy. Now, there are a couple spots where those lines get a little bit wiggly, especially when you zoom into his face and look at his glasses. Those glasses obviously are meant to be as round as can be, but they do get a little shaky here and there. Which is interesting because for the most part, the rest of the lines are pretty solid. The merman's tail itself has a nice gradient from the teal to the green to the yellow, and you've got nice little details in there as well, like the British flag ring on his finger. And as I said before, I do love the general aesthetic that this tattoo has. For instance, the big red circle in the background. That's something that you see a lot in neo-traditional and traditional tattoos. Obviously, everybody knows that Ozzy bit a head off a bat, so I understand that part, but I just don't know where the mermaid fin comes from. Maybe I'm missing something, or maybe that was just your idea that you wanted to implement into this tattoo. Regardless, it's done well and looks pretty cool. Thank you so much, Corrie, for sending that in. Sharon! The next tattoo sent in is from Adrian, and you'd like to know my opinion on this tattoo. Adrian, I would generally like to know your opinion on this tattoo and how you feel about it. Because I don't think it's that great. And it kind of looks like chicken scratch. No, but for real, this tattoo does need a lot of work, in my opinion. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot holding this thing together. The actual lines themselves in the tattoo do look like scratches. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. And the background stippling just kind of looks haphazard. I think something that the artist could have done to make this tattoo better is adding different line weights. You need some sort of thicker line weight to hold this tattoo together, like I said, because right now it's just everything is thin and it's just looking very scratchy. On the other hand, coming from this artist, I don't know if adding those thicker lines would actually help this tattoo. It may just leave more room for error. If we look at the bottom rooster, it does look like the artist tried to make nice layers in there with those lines. And if we bring our eyes up over to the top rooster, it seems like the artist kind of just got very lazy. It almost looks like somebody was choking that chicken out. You did send a healed photo in as well, and it is a little blurry, so it's very hard to see, but you can tell a lot of that stippling fell out near the bottom. And a lot of those layers kind of disappeared. That just tells me that those lines weren't really put in there that great to begin with. Luckily, this tattoo is light enough that if you were to want to cover it, you could go to an artist that specializes in cover-ups and do just that. But as this tattoo sits, it's really just not good. Sorry to break the news to you, Adrian, but I appreciate you sending that in. Next up, we have a tattoo sent in from Chris Mangold. And Chris, you sent in a Darth Maul skull with a Sailor Jerry inspired snake running through it. You did mention that the artist replaced the original snake back design with a Force Lightning design instead, which I think is a pretty nice touch, and it also makes it your own. The color choices used in this tattoo I think are fantastic. They contrast each other enough just to set themselves apart from one another. Now when you look at the outlines around Darth Maul's nose and around the belly of that snake coming out of Darth Maul's eye, you can see that there are almost streaks coming through those lines, or little areas of skin tone. Now generally, if the lines are put in deep enough, those lines will blow out and hide all those holidays. However, if those lines are weak, they'll come out and it will just end up being a weak line, similar to what's happening on the bottom jaw of that snake. I don't think that that's going to heal out to be a very solid line. Now that can happen a multitude of different ways. That could be from the spacing in the tattoo needle down to how hard the tattoo artist is pressing, because there are some very solid lines in this tattoo, especially when you look toward the back of the Darth Maul skull. Now that's nothing to be concerned about. That's something that the artist could go back in and put a new layer of lines on if it needs it, but maybe it's just something to keep an eye on as it heals. The red in Darth Maul's face is pretty solid. The blue in the snake's back is a little patchy, but to me personally, light blue is probably one of the harder colors to put in. And I think that's just because of the heavy presence of white in that light blue. Anything that contains a little bit of white is generally going to be a bit more difficult to put in, especially compared to a fully saturated color. But overall, this is a very solid tattoo, and I do love the incorporation of the Sailor Jerry design in this. Thank you so much, Chris, for sending that in. All right, the next tattoo sent in is from Jay Quinlan. And Jay, you sent in a tattoo of Homer's spirit guide, Wolfie from The Simpsons, who is voiced by Johnny Cash. Now, I do love this tattoo, not only because it's well done, but I am a huge fan of The Simpsons. At least the first 10 seasons. The rest are garbage. But this tattoo has a lot going on for it, and like I said, it is applied very well. Obviously, we've got Wolfie, Homer's spirit guide, at the top, and as we work our way down, you run across the hot Guatemalan spicy pepper that Homer eats, allowing him to talk to Wolfie.
Fear not, Homer. I am your spirit guide.
And then if you look toward the very bottom of the tattoo, you've got this little gargoyle with a spoon. And if you look really closely, you can see it on the top of Chief Wiggum's tent at the chili cook-off. This tattoo has a lot of tiny little details that showcase the creativity and keeps true to the Simpsons fandom. Now for the technical application side of things. For the most part, this tattoo is insanely solid. I do wish that the artist had thrown in a couple different line weights in here just to show some depth. Now obviously, the Simpsons don't have a lot of line weights in their animation, but this being a tattoo, it just leaves it open to interpretation. And as we talked about many episodes ago, sometimes you do have to tattooify an image. A lot of times in animation, you have wall-to-wall color, and it doesn't necessarily translate to tattooing every time. That's where those extra line weights help out. Our skin isn't as clean as an animation cell, so sometimes tattoos need those extra thicker lines just to help keep it cleaner. A lot of times I talk about only adding white to surfaces that are shiny or reflective, but in this case I really think it helps out, especially in the coyote's body, as it just keeps everything a bit cleaner, keeping those colors away from the line. And also it's nice to have that little extra green in the cauldron just so that cauldron didn't turn out solid black. Excellent tattoo, Jay. Thank you so much for sending that over.
Just give me some inner peace or I'll mop the floor with you.
And this next tattoo sent in is from Josh Hammond. And Josh, you sent in a picture of your hand with a nice new school rose on top of it. Now this thing is bold, and it looks like it has all the right elements to really make a nice new school tattoo. The red on the petals are perfectly saturated, and I love the nice blue glow that it has. A lot of times when I see this blue glow from newer artists, they don't add those two tones of blue, rather just leave it alone with one. But I do see that darker blue in there leading into that light blue, just giving it a nice three-dimensional effect. I almost feel like the blue in the bottom of the tattoo leading onto your fingers is a bit unnecessary, as I'd like to see how that healed up. A lot of times that area of your skin requires a second or third pass just because it doesn't like to stay in that area in specific. I think you could have gone without it. I think the leaves coming down on the finger look great, and you probably could have been left with just that. Nice little addition of the purple tips on the top of the leaves, and you obviously have a couple different line weights in this tattoo as well. You've got the thinner lines to help with the detail and these thicker lines to just help keep everything together. Now there are a couple things that I would have done differently, one of them being the bottom with that blue and also the drops themselves. I do love those drops on the petal, but I would have loved to see a little blue line on the bottom of those drops just to help tie everything together. But being on a hand, you really can't ask for much better. Excellent work, Josh. I'd be proud to wear it. Thank you so much for sending that in. All right, so that's going to lead us into my favorite tattoo of the week, which was sent in by Josh Hammond with this rose that we just looked at. This tattoo, especially for being on a hand, is very well applied. The color in this tattoo is really sitting in the skin, and it's not gonna go anywhere, except for maybe that blue part at the bottom. But I do love the color choices in this tattoo overall. It's got nice little additions here and there where you can tell the artist really took their time. So Josh, again, thank you so much for sending that in, and congratulations on being my favorite this week. All right, now each week I like to feature an artist at the end of these videos who I think you should all be following. And that featured artist this week is Ben Ochoa out of California. Ben Ochoa's tattoos are mind-blowing. He puts in colors that I never thought you could get to stick that well into skin, like white, for example. I don't know how he does it. Aside from that, Ben's got his composition down. He really knows how to lay out a tattoo. There's not really one thing that I would pick out to change in any of his tattoos. They are all gorgeous. It doesn't matter if the subject is Disney, anime, or horror. You can be confident in going to Ben with whatever idea you have. He's surely going to knock it out of the park. So do yourselves a favor, head on over to his page and give him a follow and let him know I sent you. And also be sure to check out my other YouTube channel where we are doing strictly podcasts with tattooers from around the globe. I'll put the link below. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all next week.